Welcome back, coaches. This is the Football Coaching Podcast. I am Daniel Chamberlain, co-host here with Joe Daniel.
What's up, Coach?
Well, I'm one day out from finishing the Sulfur Strong Clinic. Thank you so much once again for talking yesterday, which I realize will be a week away when this comes out.
Sure.
Whatever. So I'm kind of on a little high, man. It's been pretty nice. I learned a crap ton of ball. It's nice to do nice things for people. Gives you a little bit of that energy. So, yep. Looking forward to off week. I think we're 1 week away from our dead period. I'm going to take a week off before the dead period because I have been running and gunning between military, football, the clinic. So I'm going to take 2 weeks off.
Makes
sense.
And
that's kind of my level up. It's just taking some time to myself, giving back to the family.
I haven't even thought about the dead period because it's like, I don't know. It's so far off. I assume that I'll take the 4th off. Obviously, I may take an extra day. I took Juneteenth off, which is like not out of, quite honestly, it was out of necessity because our nanny has Juneteenth off and my wife does not. So,
Yeah.
so I was full-time daddy daycare, which was, fun. And we went to the pool and everything. And I was like, I'm not going to try to like squeeze in some work during nap times and stuff. It's just not worth it.
Yeah. Our daycare is also a federal program. And so it was closed, and which just meant more. And I just got back from being away for 2 weeks. So it was great with me to have the kiddos.
Yep.
So
we have our beach trip at the end of the month. So at the end of July. So saving some days for that. I'm trying to talk myself, but I'm simultaneously right now trying to talk myself into and out of working Sunday. I'm going to visit my dad this week. So I'm like, I know what's going to happen is these days are never long enough because, we try to get out a little bit early because it's about a 6-hour drive. It could be 7. Joe's pretty good about the car ride now. So, but, a year ago it was like, this is going to be a 7-hour trip. We're going to stop. Now he's, he'll sleep in the car, all sorts of stuff. So, but like this, I'm always like, okay, I've got from 10:30 to, we leave around 2, and I never account for like, I got to pack. I'm not going to, it's not going to be 10:30 and I'm in the office working and getting, a full 3 hours of work or whatever, 3.5 hours.
Right.
And of course we're doing the podcast today. So it's like nothing's gotten done. I've got emails to write, I got all this stuff to do. So I'm trying to talk myself out of working on Sunday when I get back, but we'll see what happens with it.
So I have to ask a question because I've been looking into it because I have so many irons and so many fires right now. Have you ever considered one of those AI scheduling apps that you just input all of your requirements and let it give you the best time? I'm thinking about trying one for a month or 2.
I would be interested in that. So one of the things is, I'm in a, and I've talked about some books and stuff on our Level Up shows. I'm in a thing called Strategic Coach. A guy named Dan Sullivan runs it. And it's a kind of a business coaching entrepreneurship program. And actually kind of related to my Level Up. We have a thing that he calls the entrepreneurial time system, which uses free days where we do nothing business oriented. And I've had to rationalize like, okay, football has to be fun for me. So I can still do football work on free days. Although I try, as I said, on Saturdays, I try not to do any of it, but so anyway, and we have, focus days where it's just like get to work days. And then there's buffer days where it's, what 99% of my work days have always been, which is just like putting out fires, doing whatever needs to be done type things. And so, but one of the big pushes in there, and I just went to a meeting in Chicago, that could also be a Level Up for me. I had a quarterly meeting, and which was really interesting. I kind of tried to figure out like what my purpose in all of this is. Like, why am I doing all of this? Because it shifts around. But one of the big things that we talk about is AI and the leveraging of AI. And that's something that was really interesting. So there was one guy in there. So I'm in a room full of people that I shouldn't be in a room with. Like, I just accept that. It's a high level, fairly expensive. It's expensive, not fairly expensive. But the other people in there, are talking about multiples of money that I can't grasp. And you never know, like, how many employees do they have? How much, what's the take home kind of thing, but they're running big companies. And we talk about AI all the time and what AI can do. And I use AI for things like the clips that go on Instagram and TikTok. That's really been helpful because that's a time intensive thing and something that I don't have. I don't have a social media guy or anything like that. I use AI to filter my emails, to help filter my emails, and then have an assistant that does that as well. And I've started using, I'm always looking for a place to use an AI tool. There was a guy, he buys land, right? He buys land in probably in your area. Like he buys land in Texas and Oklahoma. And I don't know how it works, but he buys land out there. And basically he looks for people who have land that fits certain criteria. And then he offers them money for land, right? He has, over 6 months built a series of AI tools, not one thing, but a series of AI tools that one of them goes out and runs all the numbers and finds the properties that fit based on everything that's out there. One of them looks at it and it evaluates like what it's worth. One of them then does like essentially a robocall to the, finds the landowner. One of them does a robocall to the landowner. One of them figures out what the offer should look like and sends an offer sheet to the landowner. One of them like closes the deal. And he's got this AI automation that is buying land. And, it's like 10x is, what he's able to do. And I'm just like, and everybody in the room, it's not just me, everybody else is like, I don't even like, I'm not even on that planet. So yes, I am interested in that. It's one of those things, like AI is super cool in some of the things that it can do, but I'm also just like, some of the things that people try to use AI for, like there are people who do marketing like I do, and they're like, "Oh, I should have AI write my emails and write my sales page." No, that's
Doesn't
never
have
going to
that.
do that. It's not. That's
Doesn't
not
have
happening.
that feeling, does it?
No, like that's just, it's going to look like something. Now you can get it as a framework, as a template, and maybe it save some time, but that kind of stuff, I don't know that it could ever do. But I would be interested. I would look for that. That may be my next thing. My level up, I guess. I went to Chicago for a strategic coach meeting, and I always come out with, I came out with like trying to figure out what the whole purpose of my business is and what the goals are, because I'm far past. There was a good 5 years and maybe more where the goal was to not have to go back to teaching, right? It was the fear of having to figure out how to renew my license and go back to teaching and go back to work. And like, that's not a fear anymore. And then it was, paying off the mountains of debt. And it was getting, a relatively comfortable lifestyle. And I've achieved all of those things. So it's like, okay, what is those were the things that got me up and like, it's one thing, like, yes, I want to help football coaches, and I get jacked off of like seeing coaches turn their team around and having success. And that's why I like game film analysis more than anything, is because I get to know the players and get to know the whole situation. And, I don't know their names, but I know their numbers, and I see them develop over the year and all that sort of stuff. And it's fun. I love doing that, but that doesn't get me out of bed. Like almost that, like, what is the motivating, like, sometimes I think I need a little bit of a fear or something, but I'm past fear. Like, I don't have fear anymore. So right. I got to figure out what the other thing is. But I came back and I did a 2 tests. I've talked to think about and I think I had you do one. It's not a personality test, but it's like and I'm blanking on the name right now.
I remember it, and I don't remember what it's called, so I can't.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm blanking on the name right now.
It told me that I was complete opposite of you.
Yeah, it's weird. It's I know, like, Shem's complete opposite of me, and it's essentially, I know what I am is I'm a 9 quick start, which means like I will start stuff right now, and I like researching stuff to start it, and I like writing out the plans. What I don't like doing is sitting down and grinding through to the finish of said plan. Like, I would like to make plans and hand them to people and say, let me know when it's done.
Right.
So, but this was a different one, and they all kind of came out the same. I did a print test, which they kind of did like the idea is essentially like if you know the iceberg, right? The little bit of the iceberg that's above the water is your actions, and the print test is kind of like the below the iceberg, and it's a little bit of like what gets you motivated, what gets you excited about it. And I just try to look it up real quick to give a better. There we go. Seeing if I could get a quick explanation, but of course not. What is print? Unconscious motivations that drive your actions is essentially what it is. So I don't know. I like those little things. I don't think it's going to change my life or anything like that, but it's interesting to see, and it's very helpful. Colby is the other test that we're talking about. I think that if you were a head football coach, I would at the very least. Colby is about $50 a. It's $300 set up, and then it's about $50 a person after that. And it would be really interesting as a head football coach to Colby your entire staff. And what you find out with Colby, and you find it out too with there's another one called Working Genius. It's only about $25. It's a little simpler. It uses a thing called widget, and it's essentially like people whose strengths are in different areas. And it's really interesting, this stuff, because I think if you did it for your coaching staff, it would help you to be able to assign tasks to coaches and get them done. Like some coaches are more suited to, finding, go out and research a way to, go out and research third down plays for us. Some coaches are more suited to making sure that the game balls are all ready to go and packed, and that the bus is packed. And it's not, I think that a lot of us look at those things, and, a lot of your coaches, especially your more experienced coaches, may tend to be more on the, the X's and O's creativity strategy side. But like, you're going to have certain coaches that are better at paying attention to the clock and following the rules of the clock, to whereas other coaches may be better at play calling and that sort of thing. And I think it would be if we started to use some of that to decide where our coaches go, rather than the idea that, I think a lot of guys think like the guy that's cleaning the office is the low man on the totem pole. The guy that's loading the bus is the low man on the totem pole. The guy that's making the play calls is the top of the totem pole. It's like some people be there 30 years, and I'm still friends with him, but like, he was our offensive coordinator at the time. He's out of coaching football now. He loaded the game bus he loaded the balls and got the balls ready every day, every game. And it was just like something that he liked doing. It kept his mind off of the nerves of the game. And he's the guy who should be doing that. And it's like fitting people into these things, fitting people into these spots. So anyway, that's mine.
The Colby test. I just found my answers. I was an 8 in fact finding.
Yeah.
4 in follow through, a 3 in quick start, which does not. I feel like I'm with you. I could go out and start anything today, but I'm never going to finish it. And then an implementer was a 4. So
it's interesting because mine has always been, and the fact finder, I'm a 5393. So I'm a 5 fact finder. I like doing that. And they're not like, so it is like, it's not like the way that the Colby works. It's not like, if you're if it's not like you don't start things if you're a quick start, right? It's about like, I will just go in and freaking blow up whatever we're doing. And there's I can't remember where I heard it, but I'm trying to think of where it came from. I want to say it was a Dan Kennedy thing at a different conference I went to, but the idea was that every so often you need to go in and throw a grenade into a room and just start over. Like just some things. If you look at your team or your job or your business or your house, your household, not literally throwing a grenade into the room, but some compartment. Every once in a while, you just need to throw a grenade into that compartment, blow it up, and start and rebuild it.
Yeah.
And like that to me, I'm like, let's do it. Like, I don't even care which room. Just point in a direction. I'm gonna throw a grenade, and we'll redo it. And that excites me. Like that gets me motivated. But
That's awesome.
I got to blow it up, and then I either got to rebuild it myself. And again, I'm 100% ready to make all the plans to rebuild it. But and I'll do the research. But then I'm gonna need somebody else to come in and execute the plan, because otherwise I'll
Yeah.
just go throw another grenade, and we end up with grenades in every room and nowhere to
Can't live
live.
anywhere.
Yeah,
Oh man, that's funny. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. So that's a pretty neat test, Kobe test. Go take it if you haven't. Email us your scores. I would love to just see what other people are. That's fun.
yeah. I'd love to know like what an average high school football coach is. Like what kind of people we are. And I think that there's such a stereotype of what we should be like, grinders and committed and all this sort of stuff. And it's like some of us are just kind of flitty. Like we
Hey, look, and you can change. So I'm gonna talk about this, and then we'll move on to the topic today, which this actually fits really well with,
does.
because some of you need to throw grenades in your parental
Don't throw
handling
grenades at your
department.
parents.
Not your parents, but in your abilities to handle
The general
parents.
area where they are.
And we're gonna talk about it. But so last night, the last talk of the clinic was Bill Blankenship.
Yep.
Walking through how he found success in coaching and how he structured his program. Of course, he retired this year, so he's out of ball for now, right?
Right.
I air quoted for the can't see, because he's still visiting all of the branches off his coaching tree now. He just goes and does the analyst thing now.
Right.
Anyway,
Yeah.
and he legit talked about going to Owasso 9 years ago, and none of the coaches were accustomed to working Saturdays. And he's like, "What the hell? Like,
Right.
we work Saturdays, people. Like, we're coaches. We have to grind." And then he bought into that system and found that coming in at 2:00 on Sunday, he still was able to win state championships, still able to win 10 games a year, get into the playoffs every year. Like, Saturdays weren't the thing that was making him successful. Give it back. So being a grinder, having to work it all these hours, it's okay to be the other guy. It's okay to be a coach that says, I want you to be well rested. I want you to be able to make decisions on the fly, and you don't need to grind. Get your damn film done, make a decision. Let's run that game plan. So
yeah, Joe Gibbs talked about Joe Gibbs talked about it in a book that I read, that Joe Gibbs was he worked 25 hours a day, 7 days a week. And Joe Gibbs talked about and Bill Walsh did the same. And both of them said probably could have won just as many games not doing that, but it's just not the way that I operated. And the problem is it's a lot easier to operate as a guy who operates like Steve Spurrier. And if you hire guys who operate the opposite, Spurrier, for those who aren't familiar, was famous for playing more golf than any other football coach ever, and winning more games than a lot of them. But, it's a lot easier to be the guy that always wants to take the day off and, come in and Ricky used to joke about this, Ricky Kuhn, when, and all these guys talk about how hard they work. And he goes, you walk into the office, and we had an office that was, everybody's, it was back at Ellsworth, we had desktop computers, and everybody had their desktop computer, and they were all up against the walls around the side. And then there was a conference room in the middle, a conference table in the middle. And if you walk, he's like, all these guys that are like grinding all these hours. He's like, walk in, and he's like, every single one of them's on Football Scoop, looking at job postings, right? They're not working on, they don't work 20 hours a day. And he's like, all these guys they're on the phone talking to other coaches at other places. Like, they're not working on football, grinding at recruiting and stuff. He's like, they're mostly killing time, wasting time. And that's the reality of it. And as high school coaches, we have another job. So we don't get paid full-time, wage to, not that I got paid a full-time job at wage at Ellsworth, but we have to work 8 hours a day or more and then find time for coaching. So we better get good at, and then we've got families and stuff, and we better get good at going in and sitting down for 2 hours and putting in the work and then knocking off.
Yep.
Or you're going to have to get good at not sleeping, which is, a badge of honor and all, but is also very unhealthy.
For sure. And you're not going to be at your best when all you're doing is making decisions. That's all you do. You sit on the sidelines and you troubleshoot.
Right. And we talk about, sleep deprivation. And it's like, if you're a certain amount, if you only get 5 hours of sleep at night, it's the equivalent of having a legal BAC, that, drunk driving, right? The mental focus. So you guys that are grinders sleeping 4 hours a night, it's like you're walking around drunk all day and then you're trying to call a game. Like, would you call a game after 8 beers? I mean, yeah, we all want to
run base,
but we're not. But we wouldn't do it. It seems like a good idea. It seems like a good idea until things go wrong. But like, you're not going to do that. And so if you're in there if you're sleep deprived calling the game, you might as well have just gotten a good night's sleep and then had a few drinks before the game. Like, it's and you would never do that. I don't think. I hope not. Anyway, moving on. Don't drink and call plays.
Don't
get a good night's sleep.
Drive. Don't drink and drive the ball.
And you can get away with it in your 20s. I don't have any doubt. But you guys are probably not going to be head coaches in your early 20s.
That's right. Pay the bills. Where are we at on JoeDanielFootball.com?
We're at JoeDanielFootball.com. Go to JoeDanielFootball.com. Right now, go to JoeDanielFootball.com, and whatever's on the front page, put your email address in and get it. You should get
free stuff.
You should get it because it's free. Put your email address in and it'll come to you. We're in the middle of a lot of transition and stuff. We'll be, we start to settle down in July and have it all hopefully taken care of by August 1 when practice starts. That's where we're at right now.
For me, just go to sulfurstrong.coachesclinic.com. You can still buy a ticket, get all those clinics. It was like, listen, there was 20 clinics. One is my wife talking healthy lifestyle stuff, which I think I still have to upload actually. And one's me talking leadership, and it might be the worst thing I've ever done on the internet. So you can go laugh at me. I got about a 15-minute warning that I didn't have a coach coming. So I made a PowerPoint in 15 minutes and I gave a clinic, and it was hilarious. But there's at least 13 really good clinics. 14. My wife's is really good too. 14 really good clinics. There was 20. So 19 really good clinics. Jesus. Anyway, $20, guys. It's $20. It all goes to the town of Sulphur. Also go to patreon.com/Chamberlain Football Consulting. Starting to write articles, doing some Zoom stuff, maybe. I don't know. I haven't decided if I want to talk to people live yet or not. Not really there. But also, if not now, when? You know what I mean? So
yeah, you kind of get there by doing it.
That's right.
It's the sad part of it is like you kind of, fake it till you make it kind of thing, but like you don't really get good at it until you go do it. It's Alex Hormozy has a great theory on this, which is essentially, if something is hard, do it 1,000 times. It won't be hard anymore.
That's right. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm at like 220 episodes on podcasts, and it's still hard. Yeah. So 750 to go. Just 8 more years. I'll get there.
I've done over 1,000, and I can tell you that it's easy. I mean,
right.
Like I don't have the greatest production quality. I certainly don't prepare. Like somebody, like they were talking about podcasting and talking about with this group talking about like, you got to start getting your brand out there, right? You got to pick one. And it was like, you can podcast, you can blog, you can do YouTube videos. I've done all of them. I wrote 365 blog posts one year. Posted one every day. I think 2013, somewhere around there. I've written a lot of blog posts. I've written a billion emails. Those are easy. I've written, but they were talking about how hard podcasting is the hardest one. And I was like, none of them are hard. You just do it.
The emails writing and trying to be funny, but informational, but get buy-in, but also, hey, it's just me writing my friend. That's hard for me. Podcasting is easy, honestly. You just show up and be yourself and talk about the thing you want to talk about. I'm sure that there's people that are like, oh, it's got to be the perfect mixture of all those things as well. Because we get emails, right? Like, or ratings that you talk too much before you get to the point.
Yeah,
Or
we're doing it now.
these shows are too long, or these shows are too short. Or you're not gonna make everybody happy.
No.
You just yourself.
No.
Anyway, bills paid. We'll push through here. What we're talking about today is getting parents involved in your program in a positive way, hopefully not in a negative way. So, question one: why do you want parents involved with your program?
I mean, obviously you want the parents involved because you need them, right? Just the fact of we have these kids who are dependent on their parents. It is certainly much easier for us if their parents are supportive of them being a part of your program and supportive of your program. The most damaging thing that a parent can do, and as I get to having friends who have kids that are of this age, that are of the, whether it's youth or high school, but serious enough age. It wasn't a big deal when they were 6. But as I have friends whose kids are getting into, middle school and high school sports, and they're starting to think about, is there going to be a scholarship or whatever? It's starting to be, we're starting to pay attention to the wins and the losses. We're paying attention to the playing time. Everybody doesn't get to play every position and all that sort of stuff. I see intelligent people who know what I do as as a career, who have no interest in my advice on it because they have become irrational parents. And I think at some point we probably all do, and it's just a matter of how aware of it we are. The most damaging thing that you can do to your child, to one of my players, is to sit at the dinner table and tell him how stupid the coach is. Because the kid has 2 choices. He can believe his parents, which is going to result in underperforming, or he can believe in his coach, which results in, issues with mom or dad. Neither one of those is good. So as a parent, as a coach, I will never badmouth your parent. That seems ridiculous to me. Like, that seems outrageous to me. I will always try to side with your parent as best I can. But parents don't see it that way. And I mean, in the hierarchy of things, in the priorities pyramid, family comes first. Faith, family, community, football. Community, academics, football. Okay. So in the priorities pyramid, the family comes first, which is why I support the family. And I know sometimes the family doesn't support football. And there's things I can get upset about. If you need to take them out, because I've had kids miss for a haircut, right? And I just go, well, I can't get mad at this kid because mom thinks haircut's more important. Mom's mom. So, that's just the deal. I'm not going to back the parent. I'm not going to tell him I love it and, hey, the haircut looks great. But
I'm telling them that.
Yeah, well,
just so they know.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, once you have the relationship with the kid, you can let them know.
That haircut looks just like 5 carries on Friday night.
Yeah.
I swear to God, that's
but you got to build a relationship with the kid first. So, but the thing is, I mean, at the end of the day, the parent has the ultimate say, right? They get to decide if that kid plays on your team, not if they play not if they get in the game on Friday night, but they get to decide if that kid's going to be on the team.
Yeah.
Or they can come in and pull them for, hey, his grades are dropping and I think it's football. Now, in the history of the game of football, Anybody who's coached for any length of time can confirm this. In the history of the game of football, high school football, I don't know if a single kid, I'm sure there's one, I don't know if a single kid has ever been pulled off the football team and their grades have gone up. No. Most of the time, when do their grades drop? In the spring, when they're not, when their life isn't structured by us. But I have to have the relationship with that parent to say, don't pull him off the team. I'll help you get his grades up. If you take him away from the team, I can't help.
Right.
There's also the keep your friends close and your enemies closer. If you've got a problem parent, and we know what problem parents, we know what a problem parent is. We know because we have to have meetings, right? We have to have meetings with the parent, or if the parent is sabotaging the program from the outside. Giving them a role in the program and make them part of the program in some way, it's harder for them to, sabotage something that they're a part of, as long as they've got a role. I'm not going to make you an assistant coach, but all the things that we know that parents can do for us, which we'll talk about, we're going to put them in there. So, I mean, you have to get buy-in from the parents. Like, you just have to. And it's funny. I'm almost to the point where I accept the irrational parents. They're not all irrational, but also, I don't know, some of them. Take a Friday night. I think they might all be irrational in different ways. And it's we, as parents, on Friday night, some of them are resigned to the fact that their kid isn't that good at football and they're just happy to be there. And they don't understand the other parents who have not figured out that their kid is not going to play D1 because they're irrational. You have other parents who are calm and supportive on Friday night because their kid is getting everything that they want their kid to get. They're the starter. They're all district. They're getting the football, whatever. They're getting the support. They're getting the looks from colleges. You have parents who their kid is getting all that and it's never enough. I'm almost to the point where I don't care what they do on Friday night. Like, I can't do anything about it on Friday night, right? And I've had so many parents who I can hear them in the stands and I know about them in the stands, and they're bashing us. They're pissed off about play calling. They're pissed off about playing time. They're pissed off about everything in the world. And that lasts from 7 till about 9, 9:15, 9:30 when the game ends. And then as long as the scoreboard comes out right, they're going to be down there on the fence, ready to shake your hand and tell you, great game, coach. Like nothing ever happened. Because they're just irrational. They don't even, it has nothing to do with you. Don't take it personally. It's just, I've got 2.5 hours to try to live out my life vicariously through my child on the field. And, then it's over. And then we're on to the next one. And of course, if we lose and I'm not happy about it, then they just don't talk to you. Okay. Now, I'll have we'll have a discussion, about it. I'm not afraid to have that talk. But again, I should get to this. Assistant coaches don't have that talk. So I don't have that talk at this point. I'm a coordinator. I don't have that talk. You don't talk to me. You talk to the head coach. And depending on the severity, you may talk. If you're a JV parent, you may get to talk to the JV head coach. But if it's more than, upset about playing time, that goes to the head coach too, because it's his program. So I'm a big believer in that this is head coach territory. At the same time, I got to make sure that my assistants are not doing anything. They've got to know, look, you don't talk to parents and you don't talk about parents other than do what your mom said. Because at the end of the day, I'm not going to say, don't do what your mom said.
Right. I think that you have to pay attention. You talked about irrational parents, and I think it goes into intelligence and lifestyles and how they were raised and all. Right, some people are just complainers. They don't even know why they're
Absolutely.
complaining. They're just up there yelling because that's what their parents did, or that's what seems right to them at the moment. Right? I've seen every lifestyle be that I've seen pro NFL players that when their kids are on the field, they are the most obnoxious,
Yeah.
seemingly low IQ, like just blatant, just yelling stuff. You're like, that doesn't even make sense. What are you talking about? You seem like a crazy person. I always refer myself back to the bell curve. There's only 68.2% of people that are in the normal zone.
Right.
The other 31.8 or whatever are not normal, whether they're stupid smart, so smart that they can't function in public, or there's the opposite, right? But it's the same thing with rationalism, right? There's going to some that over rationalize everything and overthink it, and then there's some that can't, like you said, they're just irrational people. So once again, don't take it personal. I think why you need parents involved is number one, you got to build your army, right? So many hands make light work is a saying, a quote, whatever I've heard about 100 million times in my military career. But we have a lot of tasks as coaches, as a assistant coach, I haven't been a head coach, but I've seen plenty of head coach plans and plenty of head coaches do their job. There's a lot of crap to get done.
Yep.
Some of it has to be taken care of by a coach, breaking down plays, swapping film, getting things uploaded, uh, making sure the bags are packed correctly on Friday night, right? You kind of want a coach in that position because they're going to know the ins and outs of that week, the game plan, etc. But there's a lot of stuff that parents can take over, right? You can get, and we're going to talk here in just a minute about all the things you can let your parents do for you. But if you don't ever build that relationship and get them bought into the program, you're doing it yourself. So we'll talk more about that in a minute. And the other one I think is just spreading your brand. Look, I live in a town where I was fired as a defensive coordinator after 3 games. That's the real part. I did not see eye to eye with the head coach. Time has healed the wound where I have started forgetting the bad things, but I remember at the time I did not like him as a human being. I've not had a conversation with him before that year or after that year, so I don't know really what he's like, but I did not like how he treated players at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I sat in a appointment this morning with the VA and listened to the 2 nurses talk about how good he is to their son, to the program. These are parents whose children are in that football program, and they're out spreading the gospel of the same coach who I did not like as a coach. So it could have just been personality, whatever. I'm really beyond it at this point, but it is a good reference point when I start thinking about who I want to work for, who I want to be as a coach. But you need people out there spreading your brand, because it had been another parent that's moving into the district or that isn't unsure about whether their kid's going to play football this year. Whatever it is, hearing those good things spread throughout the community is great for your program. Well, if they're never around you to see who you are, to see how you operate, then they can't go out and spread the word, or they may be spreading the bad word. Right now, they're talking bad about you out in public, and there's nothing you can do about it because you're not around to correct it. All you can do is hope that someone else sees a better light at some point. So I think that's the 2 big things: just building your army and getting more assets for the team, whether that's financial, physical labor, time, yep, social media, whatever, and then spreading your brand.
I think that
Go ahead.
there's also, some of your kids are going to love you as a coach, and they're going to go home and they're going to tell the parents, grandparents, guardians, whoever it is, all the great things that you're doing for them. Oh, he's so smart. I love playing for him, and all is so great. And you never meet that parent, and that parent has a high, and as an assistant, this is kind of how it goes, because we don't talk to the parents.
Right.
But they never meet that parent. I never meet that parent, and I just, they come up and say, I just want to tell you, how great you're doing, and kid loves you, and, we support everything, and da-da-da-da-da. It helps his offensive coordinator for scoring a lot of points. But if you are a lot of guys don't go home and talk to their parents like that, right? The teenage boys aren't generally running home to, it's not like a 7-year-old that tells them about their day, right? He's just going to go home and how was practice? Fine. Same thing. Look, I'm much older, and I come home and my wife says, how's practice? Fine. How's the gym? Fine.
Life is fine.
Everything's fine. How's your podcast? Fine. Like, this is a battle that we deal with to this day. Like, let me have 3 beers and then I'll tell you all about it. But right now it was fine.
Unless something's bad, right? Yeah. If something goes wrong.
We don't even like to talk about that either. So, just, it's fine. So, yeah, I mean, we've got, I like that. That's a huge selling point for your program and it's how important is it today, right? We talk about just one more thing is how important is it today? And I don't know how close together your schools are. I imagine it's different in some areas than others, but we have the NIL thing now, and we have recruiting in high school football in this area has almost gotten to the point where it's just like, it's not even, we have no organization that can do anything about it. The VHSL is a non-existent. They have no power. They have zero power. It's very poorly designed here. And, this goes for all sports. Parents can just grab their kid, take them to another school, get them a fake address, enroll them, and, that's it. And they're just gone. And like, if the parent, there's always going to be a better school, right? Very few of you listening to this are coaching at the big dog. Like, you were coaching at a great school last year. It has a tremendous head football coach. There was still a bigger dog. Like, I mean, there was still a bigger dog. There was one school that was the big dog. Like, and like, that's always going to be the case. There's a bigger dog. And so you have to get parents to say, like, I want my kid to be here. And it's not about who's going to get him the scholarship, and it's not about how many games he's going to win. It's about this program, this coaching staff, these players, and less and less common. It's less and less common for the kid to be here because they were born here. They grew up with these guys, and this is who they want to play with. We're much more transient population, right? And people are coming and going, and jobs are moving them, and we're not tied down. Many of us are not tied down by where our job is anymore. We can work from anywhere. And so all of those things are factors now that you better have parents who want their kid to play for you, as opposed to the other potential rewards.
Yeah. Part 2 here. So we talked about, we want parents. So now what are things we can let them do? What are some things we can let parents be in charge of or let them run? How can we get them involved with our program?
I think some of it, I mean, the obvious one that we talk about is meals. You almost have to have that. We've had churches that did our meals, but almost always it was a church where some parents were involved, right? It's never just like a small random church from outside of the county. It's like the church that half the team goes to, or something like that, or parents go to. And the parents get their church to help. And so, but other times it's just been parents. Sometimes it's been more common. It's been like, we need, and this is a lot of times like what we do with JV and stuff is, because we haven't had as big a problem finding someone to do this for the varsity. And by the way, back in the day, we used to have to do it when we didn't have somebody, we would have to go through the cafeteria, right? And that was what we used to do. I feel like that's a lot less common now, but maybe common in some places. But like, the reality is the kids don't want to have school lunch and then have school dinner like 3 hours later. Like, they want something that's kind of, a little bit different. And we've had parents who took that over, or we've had a parent sign up sheet and one parent's done it, each week, and we can pay for it out of fundraising. We don't ask, sometimes some places will ask them to donate the meal, which is certainly helpful because if you don't have a lot of money, those meals start to add up and cut into your funds quite a bit. Things that you could be buying like footballs and stuff are now going towards meals. And so meals is a big one to me. You know, that's the number one. None of us, I remember, and I don't remember the reason, but this was a Thursday practice, not a Friday practice. But we've had parents feed our kids on Thursday night, because we want to make sure that they get a good meal the night before, and then feed them Friday, and then feed them after the game on Friday. And those kids are getting 3 meals from different parents, different groups, or sometimes the same, over the course of that Thursday, Friday. So they're getting a good meal to get them ready for the game. They're getting a good meal before the game. They're getting a good meal to recover after the game. And we were able to say, like, this is what the meal should be like. Please, let's not just make it McDonald's hamburgers, or pizza or whatever. Those are always bad. Kids, it's fuel. Like, they're fine. We don't want to eat every meal, but I remember one year we had a coach cooking before the game, on the Thursday meal, and it was like, because something had happened. He's cooking burgers for that Thursday meal, like during Thursday practice, and it's like, this is not the way that this is supposed to go. Like,
Right.
we're missing a priority right now, which is being on the field coaching. Not that the other coaches weren't capable of doing it, but like, that's not the message, right? So we have to have help from outside, and that was a big one.
Yep. I think meals is always really important. I didn't realize how much, and this is part of the reason this podcast is gonna work so well, or this episode. I didn't realize how much you can actually ask your parents to do. Not from like a legal standpoint or anything, but what's customary in your area may not be what's optimal for your team.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are just not asking for parents to do very much, whether that's a hardship in the area. Not every parent out there has the finances
Absolutely.
to. Some of them are just at work, right? Both parents work to make the household hum along. So,
yeah, and I mean, if you're inner city, urban area, this is harder. It's harder to get every aspect of this is harder. And if you're in a suburb where there's a lot of stay-at-home moms, this may be like, you may just be thinking like, oh my God, if I could just get them to go away. Like, you're like listening to this episode, like, what are these guys talking about? Trying to get them involved. Like, leave me alone.
too many.
Yeah, they're all over the place. So I mean, yeah, absolutely, it's going to be different from place to place.
It was really eye-opening to me to get to Owasso this year, and like, there's a parent after every practice that's handing out snacks, Gatorade, refueling kids after every single practice. And you look at, like, what does success look like during football season? Well, what if your kids are getting recharged every day, not just Thursday and Friday, right?
Yep. We always
and of
had,
course-
at one school, we always had watermelon every Wednesday after practice. Parents bring watermelon. So I mean, like, that's awesome stuff. Parents would bake a cake for every kid's birthday.
Yep.
A couple of years. So that, and for every kid, not like their kid, for every kid, they every kid got a birthday cake, whatever day of the week. So at school we had 65 kids or whatever on varsity, so we eat cake every day. Yep. That's a whole other issue in itself for the coaching staff.
Food, fuel, right?
Fuel. Yeah.
And then, last little point on meals here, but we had to-go bags for every game. So, like, if you're going JV, and look, at Owasso, and you say, well, they're a bigger school, they got more assets. Well, you're right, but they also have more kids to take care of. Sure. So there is at some point it all balances out. But you're talking 2 JV teams, 2 freshman teams, a varsity team, and they're all getting food on the road as they get on the bus, or getting fed in the field house before the game, like just a light snack, something, right? At halftime, you go in and there's pickles and oranges and all the things that your body needs to quickly re-energize at halftime. And as far as I know, now somebody from that program may be like, no, that's not exactly how it went. But as far as I know, that was all parents doing.
Right.
They were the
may
ones
have been asked, but or sometimes you have parents coming in and saying, how can I help? And it's like, let me find another way.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, all of those things, and kids will tend to take that for granted, but as coaches, like, it's incredibly helpful, because look, we ain't packing sandwiches. before the game, right? We're,
Right.
we've got other things going on.
Yeah.
We ain't feeding them after the game. Shoot, after the game, after the game, just imagine, like, after a game, after a bad loss on the road, we're getting ready to get on a bus ride for an hour bus ride home. I don't want to talk to anybody. Ain't gonna be no talking on the bus. And I got some parents smiling, telling them great game, and handing them a Gatorade and a sandwich. It's like, well, thank you. I'm glad they'll have something to do for the next hour
Instead of talk,
because I'm glad they'll be fed when they get there, and then I get to watch this stupid film and figure out why I hate life right now. But I mean,
I think the next one that we can really let parents take a hold of is fundraising,
yeah,
and this is pretty much carried out. I mean, most of the schools in Oklahoma, and I'm sure most of the schools in the nation, have some type of a booster club, and that booster club is usually on purpose kept away from school administration, the school funding area, because you need them to be separate. The whole purpose of a booster club is so that you go out and fundraise your monies and they stay within your program. And I know that sometimes can sound a little selfish, but there's nothing worse than going out and making 10 grand in a fundraiser and 8,000 of it goes to the basketball team because they needed new J's this year and new jerseys too. So putting your kids to work for your program and keeping that money in some type of a booster club, quarterback club, touchdown club, whatever you're calling your thing, I think is great. But letting parents take charge of that and go out and find those fundraisers. So you talking about you struggle as a coach to find room on your plate for all this stuff. That's a great one you can kind of offload. Remain the general manager of it. You've got to be able to overwatch it, make sure nothing's going wrong. We've all heard the horror stories of like funds disappearing.
yeah.
There's all kind of stuff.
And
But
a lot of schools will not allow this. I think it's a lot less. I think it's a lot less common than you think it is for Booster Club to exist because of that. Because that money legally has to come in. Legally, it comes into the school. It's a tax deduction for whoever donated it, so it has to be reported. It's very strict in the way that the Booster Club has to operate. So the Booster Club has to operate as a professional organization, and a lot of school districts have basically just said, either we're not going to allow football to do that because of exactly what you said. Football go out and raise $10,000, and basketball go out and raise 500, and that's not fair, right? Or any other sport. Like, they're just usually, I see baseball does pretty good. Band does fantastic at their fundraisers.
the liberal arts.
But yeah, but like, football can usually do a good job fundraising because of the fact, number one, we have a lot of players. People want to support football, and it's an expensive sport. It's more expensive than most of the other sports, especially like baseball and softball. Those kids generally buy their own stuff, right? They aren't coming in needing a bat. They've got that stuff. But a lot of schools will not allow that, which is tough. Or they will, like you said, put it into a athletic fund. Now they may let you put it into an athletic fund tagged as football. But a lot of us are dependent on our individual fundraisers, and then they have to go through the school. And but even still, those individual fundraisers can be organized and run, even if you don't have a true booster club. There's nothing, just like, let's go really simple. There's nothing to say that a parent can't be the one that puts together all of the logistics of a car wash, right? That they get all the buckets and all the soap and all the sponges, that they put up the signs, that they make the signs for the kids. Cause like,
Yep.
there's nothing, even if you don't have a booster club, there's nothing to say that you can't get parents to organize those fundraisers. We do fundraisers, varying levels of success, but like one that had good success one year and it didn't have good success the next year was Chipotle. Chipotle, for those who don't know, all you got to do is go on a website and say, I want to have a Chipotle day. If you got a Chipotle near you, now one of the hard things was it's 30 minutes away from us. So we had to schedule it on a half day where the kids could jump in their cars and go. And it just, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. kids live 30 minutes away from Chipotle. They might all organize as an army and go to Chipotle. The whole school will go, and Chipotle will give you like 15% of sales or something like that. I don't remember what it was, but it's they give you a percentage of the sales, as long as the person says, this is for such and such football program or whatever. And you can't sit in the Chipotle, but you can sit outside and say, remember that it's for, that one like works a whole lot better if all the parents go to the Chipotle than if the kids go, right? If it's just the kids. So those are the kinds of things that like you can organize, that you can get a lot of support from the parents. If you've got a middle school team and the parents load up 5 kids in a minivan and take them to Chipotle, all together, rather than just relying on somehow they magically get there. So yeah, they can have a big impact on fundraising. I think finding ways to do that is way better than constantly. And I mean, there's the thing where the parents, like we all do the cards, the discount cards and stuff.
Right.
And, there's the thing where the mom takes it to their work. And if you got a mom that works in an office building, they sell 20 of them that day. By just going around, hey, $10 for my kid and whatever. And, the mom does the fundraising. Like that's a thing. But like, I would rather do it a little bit better than that, where it's not just mom doing the kids' work. I would like for them to organize the kids, have them on the lookout for things that they can do. If they may be able to find businesses to go on your discount cards if you make them yourself. Some people make them themselves. Some people, get to go out and find the companies on their own. Some people just go to a company that does that for them. I would rather find ways to get those parents involved in helping rather than to be constantly asking them for money, because that's where our fundraising dries up. If our fundraising is constantly asking the parents for money and our source of fundraising is parents giving us money, that's not going to be good. Like, and I know, like, there's various reasons. I get it, but like, football's expensive. If you're charging people to play football, if I'm charging you, it costs you $100 to get on the football team, essentially. And obviously, I know everybody does that and they find ways around it if you need to, but like, yeah, we all know that a lot of those parents are going to end up giving $100 or more anyway. But I would rather their support be in terms of helping the program, helping their kid, getting their kid to practice. Like, I'm already asking a lot from you. Like, maybe not when they're a junior or a senior, but I'm already asking a lot from you. Like, I don't want to have to sit and wait on you to come pick up your kid. And we take these things for granted, but you know what? They could get on a bus and just go home. But and back in the day, we used to have activity buses. Now gas is $3.50 a gallon, and they don't do that anymore. Now the only way that they're going to get home is if mom, dad, somebody comes and picks them up and takes them home, at least until they're, a junior or so. So we're already asking a lot from them in that way. It's better to find other ways to get their help than just having them donate money. So any way that we can do that through fundraising, and get money from people who don't normally donate, their time, their effort, and all that sort of stuff.
I think another way you can get parents involved is all those weekly tasks. I always think about painting the field. And I know that some of you are on turf and you're like, yeah, dummy, we don't have to do that. But they're still making the field ready for the game, whether that's putting out your cones, your pylons, or making sure the cameras are set up, or Gatorade, water, the tent for the people to, for medical, whatever. Help letting them get you ready for game day. So that way they understand really what all goes into this. They get a better understanding of like what football's all about, right?
Ours have in some places have run the concessions too.
Yeah.
We've had places where the band runs the concessions. We've had places where the baseball team runs the concessions, usually the parents and they split the money. But we've also had where our parents run the concessions and we get that money, or that money goes towards football.
We've seen a big uprise in things like decals with dads in the fall, right? So when you're putting your helmets together, you get the dads in, and make it an event, make it a full evening. Really, you just needed to put 20 to 120 decals on helmets and have it done by somebody that's not going to put it on sloppy and have no pride in it. But now you've made it a big social event. Once again, getting that parent buy-in, but also knocking a task out.
We've had parents
also,
come in and hang up the jerseys and set up the lockers before the game, so it looks like professional. It's that professional feel that walking into a locker room and there's all the jerseys, hung up and the helmets are faced a certain way, and it just looks it looks a way that they can be proud of their locker room, they can be proud of their team and all that sort of stuff. Those are little things that parents can get involved in.
Absolutely. But when you bring them in to paint the field, that's what, a 3-hour-ish ordeal generally.
One year we had a Mormon mission that painted our field every game. It was pretty cool. It was like,
we had a special needs group that would come in and paint it for us at Stillwell, which was really neat for them to be connected to the program. Sometimes the quality was exactly what you would expect when you're getting it done for free. So that's something else you got to deal with, is like, as you bring parents in that don't know,
great job.
There's a lot of time investment for you up front to make sure it's done right. I am a do it myself so I know it's right person. And so some of these are very hard for me to be like, okay, I've got to give up a little bit of margin of error to ensure that I'm not spending all this time. What's the 80-20 rule or whatever, right? Like, I think there's 100 ways to do the 80-20 rule, but one of them is like, if you can get, I don't know,
80-20 rule is 20% of the things that you do produce 80% of the results. That's the official.
There you go. So maybe that's not the right rule. But one of them says basically like, if it's going to be 80% as good as what you would do, but you're getting all that time back, just let someone else do it or something like that.
That's a different, that's 80% essentially good enough.
There you go.
And going ahead and, that's good enough is good enough.
And then I think laundry is a place that I will eventually try to get parents in. I know they're already doing a ton of laundry at home because they all have kids, and I have 2 kids. And Lord have mercy, the amount of laundry that 2 kids creates is a bunch. And me, of course, coaches, we got to change clothes 3 times to be professional and practice and professional and practice, and then come home and wash all that. But I think it's a great place. Once again, get them back in the locker room on Saturdays or Sundays. Whenever you're going to open the door, let them see you in there doing your job. Let them sit in on film watch, as long as they don't talk and be those irrational parents. But once again, just getting them involved, you get some help. They realize that, hey, this takes a lot. And then maybe they're willing to bring more people in to do more things. Last one here, and then I know we need to move on. The use their personal skills. So I can't remember what school. I think it was Wyandotte when I was there. All the lockers were built by a parent because he was a carpenter, right? So he knew what it was. He knew how to do the stuff correctly, make it look good. They had like backlit stuff. I mean, it was really nice. And he did it at cost, essentially, because he knew where to get the discounted lumber and the discounted screws. And of course, the labor was kind of his investment into the program. So letting people come in and do whatever their professional career is, let them come in and do that for your program. And that might be someone that's a CPA that can set up and help you track those fundraisings, right? And what's your return on investment of these different things. It could be, we were talking about AI. Maybe it's some technical guru that can help you buy time back by, hey, we're going to break down your film and get you percentages based on AI. I don't know. Whatever it is they do. Welders, we had welders 2 years ago that put up gates for the stadium so that we had to close some gates so people wouldn't sneak in. There's all kinds of people out there that are blue collar, white collar, whatever collar, and they can help your program as well. So let them come in and do that for you. And it's generally something they can write off as a tax write-off, as pro bono work. You get stuff done for free, and everybody wins.
We actually had our power racks built by a metal worker, and he built 6 racks for us, painted them and everything. And they didn't look like what you'd see in a commercial gym, but they were a hell of a lot stronger. Like they weren't going anywhere. So those, that was one thing that we had along those lines. So anywhere that you can find, absolutely anywhere you can find somebody to be involved. I was thinking of something else, and I've just slipped my mind now.
I stole it from you. I'm sorry.
You probably did, but I've had coaches say, "Listen, I've got a parent and I've actually had parents who came to me and said, like, what could I do? You have people who are parents who would like to be coaches, but, obviously we don't want to have an excessive amount of parents on our staff. But also a lot of times those parents work a 9 to 5 and it's not logistically not possible for them to coach. But you have, the dads who would really like to help out and be involved and be around in some capacity. And we've had parents, not for me personally, but I know some coaches have had dads who really just wanted to be involved in some way in the football aspect, not in, they don't want to do fundraisers. They don't want to do meals. But they, how can I help the coaches? And they've had them tag film. And so when you talk about, again, part of fundraising is keeping costs low. Take $1,000 for huddle assist out of the bill, that's $1,000 fundraiser.
Yeah.
And then if you can teach them, and I know you can, because I've taught somebody who knows nothing about football how to do it. If you can teach them how to tag your formations and plays too, that's something you don't get from huddle assist. They'll probably be more accurate than huddle assist. Okay. Because I can tell you that the people who are tagging for huddle assist don't watch football. Okay.
That's right.
They work very hard. They don't watch football. So that is an opportunity. There are things that you might think like, I don't, have somebody to do this. You do it yourself, and a lot of guys look for somebody on staff to do it, but managing your social media. It's a little dicey giving your social media passwords to a parent, but you can have them make all your graphics for you. If you've got a parent who's into graphic design, that'll make the graphics for you, make professional looking graphics for your Twitter or for your Instagram or whatever. That's definitely a place that you could use somebody's professional skills in graphic design. And the kids think that stuff is cool. So whether you think it's important or not, the kids think it's cool. So it kind of like is dressing up the locker room, right? It's like, that's professional. Like that's what the big boys have. So if you can get that for your little, tiny single A school to have that's going to be cool for them.
You might recruit a couple players too, right?
Yeah.
The end game, that's where I always, as a coach, I do all the graphics for my team, and I love doing it, and the kids love it. But you can't do in game, right? There's nothing cooler than
posting
having someone throw up number 12 touchdown, right? And maybe it's at the half, how many yards do we have? Or like that's the cool stuff that the real big schools have. You watch,
or like streaming the game to that kind of stuff that we don't always have available to us. Updating max preps with the scores, right?
Yeah, that's a big one too.
Stats. Get a parent to do your stats during the game so that you can call them in, post them up and everything as soon as it's over. Post all their stats on wherever it goes. Send it to wherever it needs to go. Or go to the paper, but it's not a paper anymore. I guess there's still a paper. I don't know. Yeah. But 1 year, here's another one that, we're all, you saw in our clinic last night how well end zone cameras work for most teams. We went through about 19 clips and about 3 of them had a good end zone shot.
End zone camera.
But somebody to run your end zone camera for you, somebody to film the game for you, somebody, whether end zone or sideline, but somebody, it's much better to have a parent filming than to have to get an 8th grader to do it for you, because it's just going to be miserable. So getting them to do film work, getting them to film the game for you. 1 year before end zone cameras were a thing, for those of you that are in the rural areas of the world, before everybody had end zone cameras and before everybody had huddle sideline and all that sort of stuff. I know we don't all have it, but before that was a normal thing. We wanted that end zone shot. We had a parent who set up a deer stand in the end zone, and took a camera up there and filmed just a regular, camera on a tripod, and filmed from the end zone. Now, we only did it at home games, but put a deer stand in our end zone. There was a deer stand there for the whole year, and filmed from the deer stand so that we had an end zone shot for our home games. So, I mean, you can find people that will do this stuff. You probably could find somebody who's got a scissor lift, right? And get them up there. Like, or at least you could borrow the scissor lift. I don't know. There's so many things that when you start to just think about ways that you can use people and organize people, you'll find so many things that maybe aren't a 100% need to have, but are nice to have. And I'll add one more. This comes from Rick Stewart. We've talked before. Rick just wants to know. Rick has very specific things that he wants to know, and is certain things that want to be watched. And I've talked about these. I got the idea from Rick, but I've talked about it in our offensive and defensive play caller systems. And there's all these things that we want to see. And if you've got a big coaching staff, that's all well and good. But if you're, on a youth staff and you've got two coaches, but maybe you have 2 or 3 other parents that want to help out, like, for example, Rick wants to know who made the tackle. He memorizes this is just an example. He memorizes the numbers of everyone on the defense, where they play. Rick, tell us better, but so in his mind, he knows the jersey numbers of every player. And then based on who makes the tackle, that has a lot of input into what the next play call is. So, the concept of, if I run, I'll use our system and not Rick's, but if I run power and the backside linebacker makes the tackle, I want to run counter. If I run power and the strong safety makes the tackle, then I want to run toss. If I run it in the corner makes the tackle, I want to run power pass. And so if I run it in the defensive tackle makes the tackle, maybe I want to run inside zone, or I want to run wedge or something like that. So, just all built into your system. So there's nothing to say that a parent, now I wouldn't put them on a headset with you, but there's nothing to say that a parent can't be standing next to somebody else with a headset and just say the number that made the tackle, or just yell it out. I don't care. 56. Thank you. Like, stand behind me on the fence and yell out 56. Okay, cool. So, we talked about that and all of the different things that need to be done, and that you can use a parent to do these things for you. You can use players to do it for you. You can use parents to do it for you. So there's so many things. And again, pick and choose your parents wisely. Like, I've got to have somebody that understands, if you start making play suggestions, you will not get to talk to me anymore. Like, this partnership will end. This is your job.
Yes.
I need your help. It will help us win games. But if you start making play suggestions, this ends. So you got somebody that's not irrational all game long, right? And so there are many, many ways that you could use parents to be involved in your program. I would just, like you said, be very, very specific in what you need and what the boundaries are for those things. We have, not now, but we used to have a field house. And the officials liked to use our JV locker room to shower and sit and talk and hang out, not go home for like hours after the game. It was miserable because we had a really nice field house at the time. Nobody else had something like that. And it's like, I know you guys aren't doing this when we play other schools. You're getting dressed in the parking lot going home. But we kind of need our office back, and we kind of need you to get out of here so that we can talk about how bad you were tonight. But
Right.
we had to lay out specifically, because that was also where players picked up some food on the way out, said goodnight to the coaches and everything. We had to make sure those parents knew you don't talk to those officials, right? Because that's gonna hurt us in the future. So you just make sure you set boundaries in everything that you bring them in for.
Yeah, that's our last part here, and we're going to push past because we've talked for a long time on this one. But it was just, how do you prevent parents from taking over? And it's communication. And I know we're all bad at it, but it's just setting those hard boundaries up front. This is not you're not a coach on the team. You're not here to tell me what play to call or what scheme to run this week, or
right.
You don't even get to help decide what color jerseys you're setting out. You're just setting out whatever I said or the leadership team voted on. However you pick those things. You're not hiring this parent to do that. You're not hiring them, number one. Don't give them money.
No.
The whole point of this is volunteer work. They don't. There's a certain amount that you can give a lead parent some leeway and be like, hey, I don't give a crap what you feed us. Here's the dietary needs I need.
As you,
high protein. But you go figure out what company is the easiest to work with. Where's the best bang for the buck? then you can delegate to these other parents who picks it up, who drops it off. All I need is food after practice on Thursday at this time, at this location. The rest is on you. That's where you can delegate and give them a little bit of power. Not the things within your program, though, right?
No.
If it's behind a curtain, great. If it's within your program, no go. So just lay those guidelines, left and right limits, boundaries, whatever you want to call it. Let them know what they're supposed to be doing and what you don't need them to do, and then go play ball.
Right. Yeah, and there's some things you don't want people to know, like I don't know that I would want that guy out there telling everybody that he's the one who tags our film. Right.
Right.
Kind of just keep it quiet. Like, we appreciate the help. You know, I don't need some other parent going, oh, they don't even do all their own film work, something like that. You know,
right? Yeah,
they got some other guy doing. It's like, yeah, we do. Well, we could either do it that way, or we could give Huddle $1,000. But they don't want to hear that. They don't want that explanation of like everyone in the country has somebody else tagging their stuff now.
Right.
They don't want that.
Kind of like out of your quick.
Kind of like back in the day, by the way. Nobody wanted when Tony Franklin's system said, we'll script your first 20 plays. Pick a game, we'll script your first 20 plays. At the time, other than the Tony Franklin teams, everybody was like, that's not even coaching. You're having somebody else make your game plan and da-da-da-da. And it's like, you know, we're all smarter now. I'm sure there's some that aren't. And I'm not going to script your plays for you, but I mean, I will, I guess. I don't know. It's not going to go very well, but, you know, at the time, that's something that you really didn't want to tell people that you were getting that. It's like, right. People don't understand that things have changed.
Right. We'll pay the bills to get out of here. We've checked all the boxes on this one. So athleticspeedmovement.com. Jump over there and see Del Basket's 46, 47. I have to look at the date. I can't remember the starting date.
I think we're going 46.
Yeah, 46 years of his experience coaching speed and agility at the highest levels and the lowest levels and everything in between. 6 Hall of Famers, 25 plus All-Pro players, and so many stories of high school kids and college kids who got involved with Dale and raised their ceiling, right? So a lot of people went further in their athletic careers. They extended their contract on playing sports before someone told them you're done because they use the Dell Basket system. 12-week program. You can get started now. And I think we're at that limit right now where you would be like rolling up into week 1, the fastest team you'll ever put on the field.
Yep. Pretty close to it. If you'll just for frame of reference, the first 5 weeks teaches your players how to run. If you can get those 5 weeks, and this is not something that you can't do in season, right? It's not something that it's not something that you can't do. But if you get through the first 5 weeks, you're going to have a significant difference. Week 6 is where you start working on running fast and changing direction and all of that sort of stuff. And again, about 25-minute sessions, 2 days a week. So you could, you know, if you use the 90-minute practice plan, just as an example, if you look at the 90-minute practice plan, it's only about 60 on Monday and 60 on Thursday. And then we do short weightlifting. You could do 90 4 days a week and do your speed on Monday and Thursday. It's not so demanding that it's going to hurt you on Friday. It's technique. It's supposed to not wear you out. You could do that at the beginning of your practice on Monday and Thursday in season. And, you know, as you finish the program, and it would be tremendous benefit for you. Tremendous benefit.
What cells are opening and closing? This comes out like, I think next week. I think we're caught right up to ourselves here. So the 27th.
Yeah. So we'll be releasing we'll be right at either the middle or the end of the offensive play caller system. We'll be out, and then we got the dead period, and we're on to whatever, you know, we're on to, you know, after the dead period, it's all downhill.
It's basically in season.
Yeah, I mean,
go.
We're going into, you know, I think we'll open up Football Coaching 101 one more time, and before this, you know, in July, I believe, and or maybe it's not football. I can't remember, Football Coaching 101 or Game Film Masterclass. One of them will be open up. And if you want to get in JDFB, be on the wait list. Also, make sure to check things. You know, we'll have some different opportunities to get into JDFB as well.
Awesome.
But yeah, be on the wait list if you want to get in JDFB. I get people emailing me going, when can I get in JDFB? And it's like, get on the wait list. Like,
Yep.
we're not opening things up the way that we always have. So get on the wait list.
Social media, you can find me on Twitter/X at Coach Chambo OK. You can email me at chamberlainfootballconsulting@gmail.com. I have a chamberlainfootballconsulting.com. I don't know if I've even made it go live. It was one of those quick start things that I didn't follow through. I've got podcasts put on there, and then I got really busy with ending school and military and summer. So I got to get back on that, but it should be going live if it isn't already. And of course, patreon.com is where you can find me, Chamberlain Football Consulting. What about you, boss?
You can find me on Twitter at Football Info, on Instagram at Joe Daniel Football, Facebook.com/Joe Daniel Football, TikTok at Joe Daniel Football, and Joe at JoeDanielFootball.com email address. And just go to JoeDanielFootball.com. That's the easiest thing to do.
There you go. Podcast is at the FBCP on Twitter. And then you can find all the episodes on JoeDanielFootball.com. Scroll all the way to the bottom and you'll see the episodes in a row. If this is your first time listening to the Football Coaching Podcast, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. You can find us on your favorite podcatchers. Spotify and Apple Podcasts is the biggest two where you're going to find us. If you've been listening for a while, please leave us a review, especially if you're at a 4 or 5 star. If it's below that, let us know what you think's wrong. Let's see if it's something we can fix, something maybe we just we don't see eye to eye on something. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Football Coaching Podcast. Remember, coach simple, play fast, win.